Hey guys, this is Mark. So today for my video I thought I would go to the Caspian. The Caspian chapter is a little tricky. There's a lot of stuff that's gated until you have accomplished certain things, and a good number of those are impossible to really circumvent. There's another video out on YouTube that can show you a way to enter the final tower almost right at the beginning of the level, which is really the only true sequence break that I've found for this level. There are a couple of places that you can kind of access before you're supposed to, though. So right now I'm standing at the base of the Lighthouse plateau. Normally when you go through this level and finish the lighthouse in a spider bunker, you exit just over the rise beyond that ship. Now, I personally absolutely despise spiders, so I would love to find a way to completely skip the bunker. But again, the only way I've found to actually do that is to use the other trick to enter the tower right at the beginning. So just for orientation, we are on the far side of the abandoned highway bridge, and here's our sniper's tower way out here in the distance. We're across the lake from it, and in the normal course of the board, Anna is stationed in a little outpost there on that bridge. So this bridge has come up and it just dead ends, and up here is the Lighthouse plateau. This is the far side from it. The lighthouse is really hidden by that partial bridge right there. On our map, you can see where I'm sitting. It's really on the backside of nowhere. There's not much else here. Now, I've gone all around this plateau trying to find places where I might be able to get up there early, and I've only found one truly successful one. There's a second place close to where you would normally enter the cave there. Right up against the lake, there's a place that you can sort of skirt around the lake and do a little sky rimming and get part way up the slope. I never really played with it too much to see if I could get all the way up, but there is a possibility there. You'll also notice that as a weapon, I'm using the crossbow that you would normally only get until the Tega, but at the end of the cannibal board, there's a secret developer's room where you can kind of outfit yourself with any gear you may have missed. So I'm carrying the crossbow with some incendiary loadouts. Now, if we enter this little dust bowl area, it still looks pretty formidable. And earlier I've trying to jump up the cliffs here. It's really designed where you can't do it. For Metro Exodus, there's a lot of invisible walls where you can't go even if you physically could jump there. The developers have stuck invisible walls to block you from doing so, and a lot of this slope is covered that way. But they missed at least one spot that I found. So when we come to this dust bowl area, there's some scrap right there, and there's this rock slope. And it's pretty slick. You don't actually have to jump here. You can get up to the top. Now, I usually fall 2 or 3 times trying to time this right. I'm not going to save and reload. I'll just keep doing it until I make it. But basically, we want to jump over here and then start spamming our jump button to get all the way up there on the top. Now, when you fall down here, you just basically circle around and do it all over again and again and again until it takes. Once you stick it, then you'll be up on top of this small plateau, and with a careful jump we'll be able to jump across to get to this lower section here below the bridge. Now later, if you really want to skip the spider board, which I do, then we can use that to our advantage to apparently die. We can use that to our advantage after we rescue Guil to leave the plateau without having to go through the spider bunker. Again, if you do that, you won't be able to complete the rest of this level as intended, but you can always use the van trick to quickly get to the end. Now, I've mentioned the van trick several times. I don't remember the guy's name who posted it. If I can find out, I'll locate it and list it in the comments. But it's a way you can enter that final room without too much trouble. And if you do that way, while you don't get to do the normal missions, you do still have the opportunity to free the slaves that you would normally be wanting to do. So, well, I thought I had it there, but not so. So, let's try it again. And that's dead. So I think I'll probably turn around and edit this section out. If not, you guys can just watch me fail repeatedly. At least you'll have some idea of what happens when you're trying to do a little sequence breaking. I'm not really going to consider this a sequence break because even though we're going somewhere we're not supposed to be able to go to yet, it's really not too far off course. And in order to progress any further in the missions, we still have to do all the normal things. So it hasn't really helped us a lot. It's just kind of fun. Now, there are some neat aberrations once we complete what we're looking to do here, and I'll point those out to you here in a moment. Now, you can sometimes make the jump here. There's actually no reason to. This jump is fairly tricky, and I'll actually make a save point here, so if I fall I can just reload without having to go through the previous step again. If you try to run up to the edge and then jump, you really won't make it. So what you want to do is back up, sprint, and then jump a little early. Normally you'd want to jump at the very end, but for this jump you're going to want to do it on the early side of things. Again, just in case. So I'm going to run, jump, and not make it. So we're going to reload. I would strongly recommend you do this as well. When you're looking to find a sequence break or get out of bounds in some way on Metro Exodus, it's a good idea to make a safe point before you take any big jump. Otherwise you could end up having to repeat an awful lot of stuff over and over again. Now, once we make this jump, we pretty much are going to be home free, even though there's a few pseudo scary points that we'll get to. One of the most unusual things we're fixing to run into is a totally new kind of terrain that you're not going to find anywhere else in this game, and that's ice that's actually slippery. And it actually can be a little intimidating because when you first reach it, if you're not expecting it, it can slide you right off the edge of where we are. I think there's a key shortcut for quick load, but I don't actually remember what it is. Before I make another video, I guess I'll look it up and see. I usually just use the escape key and go back and forth. So we'll try again. I knew better than to go to that side. When I first got up here, I made the jump the first time I did it, and then when I was preparing for this video, I made the jump probably 24 times before I stuck it. Things like that are a little frustrating, but it's going to happen. A lot of these jumps you'll get lucky and nail the first time, and then every time you try to do it after that, you struggle. So we're up here. Now, from here you get a better sense of maybe where we were. There's the lake with the Baron's headquarters. There's the sniper tower again. The Aurora is on the other side of that plateau. So the place where we pick up the van is on the far end on the other side of that plateau. There's no good way to get up top from where we are right now. Again, we've got some invisible walls as well as just some very tough places to land. The game doesn't like for us to stick. However, this little slope down here, this pinkish slope, has an invisible wall across it about right there. So if you fall down here, and we're fixing to, you actually can't get all the way to the ground without some serious maneuvering. And then we'll go from here up this slope and onto this set right here. This is ice on the white on the far side, and that's something we're going to have to contend with, but as long as we keep moving, we should be fine. So for here, we're just going to jump and then spam our jump key till we get up here, and I just slipped on the ice. And we are back at the bottom of the slope. I don't know that I've actually done that one before. So let's go back up here again. Now, this last time I actually ran to the very edge and jumped, and it worked. I'll try that again this time. Historically, I've always had better luck jumping a little earlier than you would expect rather than later. So your mileage may vary. Play around with it a few times until you find what's going to work for you. Okay, so the quick load leads me back up here this time. Good. So I actually can't go forward. I'm trying, but that invisible wall is catching me. There's no slope down there that's going to stop me. And you'll notice, at least somewhat, I said I hated spiders, and there's one at my feet. When you're back in that developer room picking up whatever weapons you want, there's a spider that will start tagging along with you. So now we want to just kind of Skyrim up this slope. And here we are on the ice plane. You see me sliding backwards. For those who haven't seen any of my other videos, Skyrimming is just repeatedly pushing into the slope while jumping, and typically going off to one side or the other as well. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim is both famous and somewhat notorious for letting you accidentally climb almost any slope in the game by doing that. You're not supposed to be able to do it, but you can. It's not as efficient as the horse climbing, but it's still a pretty effective way to get up mountains. Metro Exodus blocks a lot of that. The slopes are not made for climbing, so you can only do it in certain places. So we're up here on this little mini plateau. We're below the lighthouse. And if you're familiar with the area where you enter the lighthouse normally, is right over here. So if I were going like I should be going, then let me see, orient myself. There's the road coming in. Right over there. Now, when I'm running across this slope here, there are times where I'm passing through rocks. This is out of bounds, if you will, and the developers never intended for us to actually get up on this plateau here, so the collision physics aren't exactly correct. You also normally don't get to the lighthouse level in the daytime, so it's not quite sure what to make of that, and that leads to some interesting points here in a minute. We'll see. So anyway, we would normally be coming in right up there and entering the cave. So let's come on over here. We've got a great example of that invisible wall I was talking about that we'll be taking advantage of momentarily. This is a lot of eye candy for you to look at when you're actually on top of the plateau. Now, normally speaking, you would come out of the cave right over there, go up the side of this shield, and there would be a gunfight going on. And it looks like I've delayed enough that the sun's going to be setting fairly soon anyway. So we get here. If you drop down in here, that's a dead end. When you go through the cave normally, there's a split where one side is blocked by a landslide and the other side is open. The other side is what comes up right there. So what we're going to do first is just jump to this area right here. And let's make a quick save file just in case. but we can't actually get over that railing. There's an invisible wall that's blocking us from doing that. However, in this case, they didn't put the wall right up against the block. So what will happen is when you land like I just did, as long as you kind of push forward like you're trying to climb that railing and jump repeatedly, you'll actually do like the old Super Mario Brothers cheat and just jump up in air until you get your footing on the top of the plateau. And I'll show you what I mean. So once again, we're going to make that jump, or not. But as long as you keep jumping and pushing forward, you want to get out a little bit, we're just going to climb up here. We're not standing on anything. The game just doesn't know that we need to fall. So now we're on top of the plateau. And you'll notice that there's nobody here. None of the Baron's men are up here. So we can actually run around. There's some bodies over here you can loot if you want to. I've already done that. But you can go and get some loot without having to kill those guys first. Now, the downside of that is that Guil is up here, and she doesn't know to let us down. The game script hasn't triggered the gunfight, and so without the gunfight, Guil doesn't recognize us as allies and won't speak to us or lower the boat so we can climb up. So we would have to actually go back the way we just came up, except go around through the normal entrance, enter the cave, and go about a quarter of the way through the cave, and you'll start getting conversations playing. And once you do that, you can try and come up, and you'll have all those guys up here that are firing. And I'll do it again in case anybody wants to see it. But if you've already done the gunfight, and Guil has talked to you and then lowered you back down, if you don't want to go in the spider bunker, which I totally don't blame you because I despise that place, then you can actually exit the plateau by coming. Now we're on top of that place we landed earlier. The place we scaled up is right down there. We're just above it. And if you wanted to go back down, you can come out here on this ledge, jump down there. You'll take a small amount of fall damage, and then you can turn around and run. You don't even have to jump to cross the gap this time. Just kind of run on off and then come back down the slope, and you'll be back down again without having to go through the spider bunker. However, without doing that, the game scripting doesn't know that you've met your goal, and so it won't let you continue. In other words, you'll never get to do the water tank mission. So right now I can run around here and it's great, but there's not much I can actually do. In order to continue the game, I'm going to have to go back down and trigger the scripting, and then Guil will start talking and I can join the gunfight and all that other good stuff. Now when you first start down and hear that, you turn around and go back, it's still empty. You actually have to enter the cave itself, and then you can turn around and head back up. So if we come down here, we'll go about as far as the first turn, and then we can try and go back. So we don't actually have to do any of this part from here on out. We don't have to go through that. We should be able to just go right back up and finish. So normally we would have come up right through here. If you try to go back down that way, then you'll find the zip line you used to enter this cave at the beginning is impassable. You can't go back across it. So this is supposed to be a one-way trail. Once you've gone to the top of the plateau, the only way you're supposed to get out is by going through the spider bunker. Again, I've explained my reasoning why I don't like it. In this particular game, I'm going to be doing it because I'm curious to know if I can get the van at the end if I've never gotten the van to begin with, which I haven't. Now these guys are fairly preoccupied right now. The scripting engine doesn't really pick up on me since it's not nighttime. I can run around, and if I start shooting, they'll see me and they'll start shooting back, but otherwise I can kind of come up here and just knock them all out if I want to. So there's a couple more over here. But unlike the normal playthrough, they're not firing at me. What's up, dude? How's it going? 99. So Normally I can go through and loot all their bodies. Probably going to do that later, but right now I just wanted you guys to see that there are ways to get up on the plateau without having to go through that initial cave. And because of that, then I'm still stuck, but I can get back down and do it the right way, or I can go up, meet with Guil, and then go from there. Really I have a lot of options there. So I may look at making another video at some other point if I find more on the Caspian, but really the only other out of bounds I've been able to access so far has been once you're actually in the Baron's headquarters. Instead of going straight to see him, if you go through and defeat all the guys in his headquarters, and instead of walking in the room with him, you can actually get out of bounds onto a little balcony area near the very top of his headquarters. The problem is you can't actually do anything, and you can't get back in, so you're stuck up there. And the only way back down is to just commit suicide, jump, and let the game reload you back in the playing field. So that's not as much fun, honestly. I like these sequence breaks that actually let you skip things, and there's just not much on the Caspian beyond getting the fan at the very beginning. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe you learned something. And if not, well, at least you saw that you can get on ice in this game in the middle of a desert with a fire field. So I guess that's kind of cool. Any questions, leave them in the comments. Otherwise, happy gaming.